12 p.m. Hello and welcome to Newsbeat. My name is Kenneth. Jesse here are stories making headlines this afternoon. As Ghana prepares to begin negotiations with the International Monetary Fund on a possible bailout to bolster its finances, we take you through how the Ghanaian economy will fare. Graduate Students Association of the University for Development Studies reveal inadequate lecture halls is affecting academic work in the school. Three people reported dead in Russia's Belgorod as Zelensky advisor concedes that a key Ukrainian bastion in Luhansk could fall. Details are coming up shortly. Welcome to the program. Let's begin from the northern region where Graduate Students Association of the University for Development Studies have revealed that inadequate lecture halls is affecting academic work in the school.
University for Development Studies UDS is one of the leading universities in Ghana, situated in the northern part of the country. Few years ago, two of the four branches of the university in Wa and Navrongo were made autonomous universities. At the swearing-in ceremony of UDS chapter of the Graduate Students Association of Ghana, the incoming president of the association, Abdul Ibn Yamin, said lack of adequate lecture halls are hindering teaching and learning in the university.
The lecture halls were not conducive. And we had at some point we have to do hassle with undergrads to be hassling or fighting for lecture halls. So lack of sufficient lecture halls primarily is one of our challenges.
He also used the occasion to call on other elected executives to serve well to meet the best interests of the association. On his part, outgoing president of GRASAG, Mohammed Ismail, stressed on the importance of student representation in the decision-making of everything university in the country. He therefore called on the incoming executives to consider the interest of students in every decision-making.
Let's bring you the big story as Ghana heads to the International Monetary Fund. And this will be the second time in 7 years Ghana has gone to the IMF for a financial bailout. The last time was in 2015. But what was the economic situation like back then? How different was it compared to this year? Let's take a look. So here it is. In 2015, our inflation rate was 17.15%. In 2022, the inflation rate is 27.6%. Now we saw a change in inflation of 1.66% in 2015. That is from the previous year, 2014. Now from 2021 till now, we've seen a change in inflation of 20.1%. Now our GDP back then was $47.5 billion. By the end of this year, our GDP is projected to hit $64 billion. Now, the annual GDP growth from 2014 to 2015 was 2.1. By the end of this year, our annual GDP growth from 2021 to the end of this year is projected to hit 5.3%. Now, a liter of petrol was sold at 2 cedis 88 pesos back then. A liter of petrol is now sold at 11 cedis 59 pesos. A liter of diesel was sold in 2015 for 2.79 Ghana cedis. Now a liter of diesel is now sold at 14 cedis 59 pesos. So these were the economic situations in 2015 and the economic situation now. In both years, we headed to the International Monetary Fund. So with Ghana going back to the IMF for a bailout, what are the likely negative implications of an IMF bailout? Let's turn to our video wall once again for some answers. So government's flagship programs like the free SHS, Planting for Food and Jobs, are likely to be affected because the IMF is likely to dictate the direction of these programs. Now, IMF is also likely to freeze enrollment of new recruits into the public sector, meaning the employment in the government sector will grind to a halt. The interest rates payable on the loans made out of borrowed funds is as high as 14.56%. So, developing countries like Ghana experience a lot of difficulties in redeeming their loans borrowed from the IMF. The IMF is criticized for its strict conditional clauses while extending credit to member countries. Among them are periodic assessment of the performance of the borrowing countries with adjustment programs, increases in productivity, improvement in resource allocation, reduction in trade barrier, strengthening of the collaboration of the borrowing country with the World Bank, and so on. Also, some of the provisions of IMF are unsound. For example, devaluation is justified when international inflation causes fundamental imbalance. If inflation persists, devaluation of currency cannot be effective. Appropriate adjustments are desired only through internal economic policy changes. Let's have a conversation on Ghana going back to the IMF, and I've been joined by an economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Patrick Asuming-Dog. Good afternoon. Welcome to Newsbeat. Let me pick your initial reaction to government going back to the International Monetary Fund. Hello, Dr. Asuming, can you hear me?
And good afternoon to viewers.
Right.
Yeah, so I think in essence, you saw this coming. In spite of the denials by government officials, I mean, the indicators were headed to, a situation where we were going to go back to the IMF. I think from the moment the 2022 budget was read, and you got the sense that you couldn't go to the international market for borrowing, you knew that this was coming. So in essence, it wasn't surprising. What was probably surprising was how government officials, especially from the finance ministry, kept denying that we end up back to the IMF.
Okay.
So this was supposed to come. This was always going to come because the things that we have to do to change our economy and stop us from going back to the IMF, we haven't done them.
This will be the second time in 7 years that we're going back to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. We compared the economic situation back then, and back then a liter of petrol was sold a little below 3 Ghana cedis. Now it's sold a little below 12 Ghana cedis. Does that mean that we are justified to go back to the International Monetary Fund because the economic situation now is really much dire than before?
Well, I think, our situation, I don't know whether there's anything called justify or not. I think at any point in time, the people who run the economy make a decision about what is the best course of action. When you do your best and you see that things are still not going your way, or you get to a point where you feel that you need external assistance, then you go. In terms of the indicators, it's obvious. I mean, for a long time, our key macroeconomic indicators have been worse than the last time we went to the IMF. I think, some of the numbers you showed, but if you look at even our debt profile, it's worse than when the last time we went to the IMF. The currency is not doing as well. In the 2 years before, the currency was doing okay, but it appears that that was driven by the fact that we didn't have access to importing the sort of things that we like to import. So in terms of what the macroeconomic indicators show us, you knew that going back to the IMF was surely going to happen.
Right. We left that IMF program in 2019. That is 4 years after we went in 2015, 2020, 2021, 2022. 3 years later, we're going back to the IMF. How is that going to affect our economy? Is there going to be a freeze on public enrollment of prospective workers into the public sector? How is it going to be like?
So first, I think we have to understand that the IMF has different programs, and there are different programs that we may engage with the IMF on. Now, but that said, you kind of get a sense that some, in terms of the standard things that when you get into an IMF program, you'll be expected to do. Those ones we know. So if you look at the statement that the Minister of Information released, it says that we are going for balance of payment support and then other things. Now, a key thing is that government finances is not in good place. So when we go to an IMF, you know that they are going to ask us to do a more stringent fiscal consolidation. This will mean that we have to raise more revenue and also reduce government expenditures. And that is where the issue about freeze on public sector employment is likely to come in, or cleaning up the payroll. Then in this particular instance, if you do all of that and nothing is happening, we might see some streamlining of some of the government's flagship programs. So I think, the IMF will definitely favor more targeting of social intervention programs than the current government has been doing. Then on the revenue side, you should expect that there will be more measures. It's interesting to note that the last time we were under the IMF program, the issue about revenue, in particular exemptions, and then also property taxes, government making more from there were discussed, but nothing was done. I think that will be back on the picture. So we could see more measures to collect more taxes, and we will definitely see more measures to try and rein in government expenditures.
Right.
I think what we should point out is that those things will temporarily fix government finances. We have to understand that if the IMF, when we exit this program and we return to the sort of fiscal indiscipline that we've been experiencing, then the IMF, whatever benefits we get from this will be temporary. There's also another thing that we have to understand that the IMF will not help us do, and that is, the structure, the weak structure of the Ghanaian economy. That always ensures that we are importing so much and not exporting so much. And then also, we are not doing enough manufacturing, value addition. So those things are not things that the IMF program will touch on. But even though those are really the fundamental things that will help us, along with government being able to remain disciplined, even when the IMF is not in town.
Right. Dr. Patrick Asuming, thank you very much for speaking to us this afternoon. Now, heads of the Economic Community of West African States are in Accra to deliberate on the political situation in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. The bloc failed to impose fresh sanctions on countries during its June 4 meeting. On Sunday, they will, however, assess work done so far by the military junta in these countries to restore their countries to constitutional rule. We'll be crossing over to Kempinski Hotel, where my colleague Eugenia Akofa-Kumi is standing by with the latest concerning this meeting. But first, let's listen to President Akufo-Addo.
Unite our energies to face a significant common threat. However, we must continue to remain vigilant as COVID-19 is still around. Let me address on behalf of all of us our thanks to our esteemed colleague, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who in his capacity as champion in the coordination of the fight against COVID-19 has spared no effort in this endeavor. Our region continues to be the target of indiscriminate and barbaric terrorist attacks, resulting in the loss of many innocent victims and the deterioration of the humanitarian situation in the targeted countries. These terrorist attacks are now not only focusing on the Sahel, but also expanding to the coastal states in our region. In memory of all the victims and their families, I invite us to observe a minute's silence in their honor. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. Excellencies, faced with this constant terrorist threat, it is imperative for us to continue to implement our regional action plan against terrorism and to coordinate our various security initiatives. This will reinforce our collective response to this destabilizing threat. Our determination in this area must be stronger than ever. Equally unshaken must be our resolve to maintain the stability of our region and of its member states. Indeed, following the failed coup d'etat of 1st February 2022 in Guinea-Bissau and our emergency summit of 3rd February 2022, we decided to deploy an ECOWAS standby force to support the stability of the country and President Umbalo Sissoko's elected government. That deployment of 609 security personnel, composed of 150 Nigerian troops and 140 Nigerian police personnel, 150 Senegalese troops, 100 Ghanaian troops, and 51 troops from Côte d'Ivoire, with a force headquarters of 18 officers drawn from across the region under the overall command of a Nigerian general and force commander, has now been completed. We must be seen as ready to go the extra mile to ensure the stability of our community and of its member states. Excellencies, the global context, characterized by the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, has led to a sharp increase in global prices, particularly of food and petroleum products. We are all victims of global inflationary pressures, which have exacerbated the food crisis in many parts of our region, instigated by the decline in production due to the impact of climate change. We can best tackle this crisis by working to enhance the performance of our agricultural sectors to reach self-sufficiency in the area of our food needs. As you recall, on 4th June 2022 at our extraordinary summit here in Accra, we discussed extensively the political and social situation in our region, with emphasis on the current political transition in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, emanating from the unfortunate coup d'etats in those countries. We decided to re-examine this matter during this ordinary summit. ECOWAS remains committed to accompanying these sister nations to return to normal constitutional democratic order. We will have the opportunity to hear from our mediators, who will advise us on the latest development in these countries to enable us to take the appropriate decisions. Excellencies, as this is the first ordinary summit of the year 2022, we will hear the report on the state of the community by the President of the Commission, as well as several reports on the operations of our community by our ministers in various areas, including the report by the Chairperson of the Council of Ministers on the administrative reforms that we'll be implementing at this summit.
Right, so that was President Akufo-Addo, who is also the chairman of ECOWAS there, addressing the leaders of the West African bloc. We've seen a string of coups happen in the region in the last couple of years, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, where Mahamadou Doumbouya took over power. And they are looking at sanctions that they can give to these countries. They initially told them to return the country back to democratic rule, but all that have failed. So they have gathered once again in Accra to look at the possible sanctions they can give to these countries. My colleague Eugenia Akofakumi is on the ground and she'll be joining us shortly to bring us up to speed on what else has been happening on the ground. Hello, Eugenia.
Right, Ken, good afternoon. I'm currently at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel where the 61st ordinary session of the heads of states of the ECOWAS is taking place. And as you know, there's been a number of coups in the sub-region from Mali right to Guinea and this year to Burkina Faso. And so the leaders on the bloc are meeting to deliberate on the way forward for these countries, on how to restore them to constitutional order. And you know that since 2020, Mali has been in talks with these ECOWAS leaders to find ways of, restoring that country in democratic rule. And they are the hardest hit in terms of sanctions from the West African leaders. They have imposed trade and economic sanctions on them. And so today we are yet to see what new sanctions or what the way forward would be in terms of restoring that country to constitutional rule. And so for Guinea and Burkina Faso, we are told that they have shown some form of commitment to ensure that they get back on track. But since Mali has been the hardest hit, we know that the three countries are also no longer, they've been suspended, so to speak, from the commission or the authority of ECOWAS. And so right here, what is happening is that the opening session is over and now the leaders are in a closed door meeting. But even during the opening session, the president of the ECOWAS commission, Jean-Claude Cassibro, indicated that coup d'etats and threats of terrorism and insurgency is affecting deeply the continent. He indicated that about 1,600 incidents have so far occurred on the continent, and over 3,500 deaths. And so they are taking steps to ensure that these incidents are curbed. The president of the ECOWAS Commission also indicated that vaccination on the continent, particularly COVID-19 vaccination, is really low. About only 17% of the population in Africa have been vaccinated for COVID-19. And so they are also saying that steps are being taken to strengthen Africa's vaccination drive to ensure that inequality on the part of Africa is something that they deal with. And so these are commitments from the leaders on the bloc to ensure that one, the insurgent or terrorist attacks on the continent are done away with, and also health-wise, food security-wise, particularly that we have the Russian and Ukrainian conflict, which is impacting severely on food security on the continent. And so they are also taking steps to ensure that Africa is, not hardest hit as when it comes to that. And so this is what is happening here. The leaders are in there deliberating seriously. Last month, on the 4th of June, when they met, they didn't really impose any fresh sanctions on these three countries, but we're yet to see what will happen again today. Ken.
Right, Eugenia Akofakumi, thank you very much for speaking to us this afternoon. She's our presidential affairs correspondent here at the Metro TV newsroom, bringing us up to speed with events happening at the Kempinski Hotel, where the leaders of ECOWAS have gathered to decide the fate of three countries who have been hit with a coup d'etat: Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. This is Newsbeat on Metro Television. We'll be back after this break. Hello again. Some angry youth of Asokore Mampo in the Ashanti region have accused the ruling New Patriotic Party government of neglecting the Ashanti region, whose vote contributed to their victories in the 2016 and 2020 general elections. The youth group also accused all the 47 members of parliament in the region of not serving the interest of the electorates whom they represent in parliament. Our regional correspondent Abdul Basit Suleiman has the rest of the story.
Addressing a press conference at Kotoko Cinema at Abuabo in the Asokore Mampo municipality of the Ashanti region, the convener of the Ashanti Youth Confederacy, Osea Koto, criticized the entire members of parliament in the Ashanti region for not showing interest in lobbying for development for the region. The group has, however, given the government and all 47 MPs in the region a week ultimatum to show commitment in lobbying for development into the region or face their wrath in the coming days, as well as forget about getting their vote in the 2024 general elections.
We were expecting that the massive support that we give to them will commensurate with the development that we were getting, but we are not seeing it. We've seen total neglect. Promises have not been fulfilled. Projects have been abandoned. Our roads are bad. And mind you, when we talk of Ashanti region, we are not only referring to Kumasi. Ashanti region consists of various villages across the length and breadth of the region. And anyone who finds himself within the borders of Ashanti region is part of what we are doing today. Total neglect. Hospitals have been abandoned. We have prominent personalities that we supported to government. We thought that these people were going to be the agents of development in our region, but they have failed us.
According to the group, since the inception of the Fourth Republic, successive government through the kind of personalities and a vote that they get from the region has always been overwhelming. However, the region has not seen the needed development that it deserves despite the massive support they get from the Ashanti region.
When we look at the kind of resources that is taken from Ashanti region and the kind of development, when we are sharing the national cake, we are referring to how our people within the region, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, can get good water to drink. When we are sick, we can go good hospitals to attend, so that when you are well, it is then that you can work to get money, to cater for your family.
They claim the Ashanti region has been neglected and all promises have not been fulfilled as projects have been abandoned, particularly road networks.
From the Ashanti region, let's go to the eastern region where students in Esiao in the Nsawam municipality have over 3 years studied in a church and at a defunct cemetery, while others use improvised wooden structures, among others, as classrooms. According to students, this is retarding studies and they are calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, come to their aid. Shadrach Odame Ejare has more in the following report.
Schools in areas like Esiao in the Nsawam municipality of the eastern region is a true replica of marginalization seen in rural areas. Esiao is about a 15-minute drive from the Nsawam mobile station. Residents in this area are predominantly farmers. As part of Metro TV's education series, I visited Esiao. Just as I entered the community, I saw some students sitting under sheds with palm front. I drove past them and continued to search for the Esiao MA Basic School, only to be told that the shed I saw earlier was the school I was looking for. Education, they say, is the key to success. At this point, I don't know whether to describe the current state of the Esiao MA Basic School here in the Nsawam municipality as a success. This is class 5 and 6. Students have been merged because there is no classroom block to occupy them. Class 5 and 6 are all in this very hat. Core of schoolwork, academic and extra curriculum for the Esiao MA Basic School happens under this shed, while others continue in this rickety wooden structure and the church. This predicament affects nursery and kindergarten and the primary school, covering from class 1 to 6. For the junior high school, This is Form 1 and Form 2. Form 3 for final year students does not exist here, as there is no space nor resources to prepare them for their final examination. Students with the requisite capacity seek their final junior high school education elsewhere, trekking long distances. Those unable to afford such journey are compelled to say goodbye to education. This is the staff common room. Teachers are supposed to prepare their lesson note and mark exercises in this space. Students here who are expected to be on the same page with those studying in the capital like their teachers have no teaching and learning materials. There are no toilets, libraries or canteen. They also do not benefit from interventions like government school feeding program. The situation, now more than ever, has gotten worse. Students are always left at the mercy of the weather. These sheds do not only host students, it's also shelter to some domestic animals. For the students, studying here is just synonymous to living in fear and despair.
Teachers from there were charity, but baby I won any. Yawahanuma, Kaka, and Suta, Yabwane team, or walk right to me back, na a better fem, na yena, Yaves Catefian, your cocoa baby atina, say, Bibia to Transana, yena, Yababetina, Asia, Emma, I am Siobo, who say, every best school.
Just as the conversation went on, the rains threatened to come down. The weather suddenly got cold. Students would have to be moved to safety. The Essien Pentecost Church was their only hope. Efforts to speak to teachers of the school proved futile as they feared being victimized by higher government officials or institutions. But what are authorities like the Ghana Education Service, the Municipal Chief Executive and the Member of Parliament, Frank Anodompre, doing about the plight of these students?
Formally, the district education, the director came here himself. He saw what we were doing, so they said he would try and help us. I've informed the MC. He also said he would do something about it. I've informed the MP. He has also said he would do something about it. So I'm just waiting for them. When the day will come that they do, because I've taken pictures sent to MC, to MP, and all those people involved. I've done that. So looking forward to maybe to help us.
Back to the school's premises, you may be looking at several stones peering through the ground. These are no mere stones. They are remnants of a graveyard. Yes, where these students are studying is a defunct cemetery. Ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all is at the core of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4, which borders on quality education. The foundation of this goal, however, looks shaken as more schools like Essien MA Basic School continue to study in Grim. These students are competing with other students from the cities. From Essien in the Nsawam Adwejiri municipality of the Eastern region, Shadrach Odame Ejari for Metro News.
Right, now residents of Amasaman and Pukwase are calling for a swift action to fix their deplorable roads. They say the poor state of the roads cost them immensely.
The Nsawam Road is no longer a pothole but a well. Our leaders refuse to stick to their promises. All they know is fuel increase.
We now use our mantle cells for spare parts.
My journey experience from Pukwase in the Ganwest municipality to Nsawam in the Nsawam Adwejiri municipality was terrible. Virtually everyone I encountered complained bitterly about the deplorable Pukwase Nsawam road. A couple of years ago, the road recorded many accidents. Businesses are also affected.
The
road is in a very bad shape. As a businesswoman like me, I find it very difficult to go to the market because of the road. The nature of the road has also given us waste problems, so we are pleading with the government to work on our roads.
Efforts to get government's attention have not yielded the desired results yet. Clement Wilkinson is the Gawes Municipal Chief Executive.
This Ofanko and Sawam Amasaman road has become a death trap to everybody. People complain a lot. People called me morning, evening, and afternoon, and they complain a lot. So today, if the media is here to ask about Ofanko Kumase and Amasaman road, you have seen the nature of the road, and I think the power lies on the ministry. They can tell us the stage of the roads.
Most of the roads have developed huge potholes deep enough to serve as water receptacles and pose as death traps. Drivers on their routes are forced to maneuver their way through the potholes to avoid damaging their vehicles. The situation frequently creates traffic jams.
My pleading to the ministry or the minister that this is highway and an international road from Accra to Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Benin, everywhere. And when you get here in the evening, the traffic here in the morning the same. We have a lot of traffic because of the nature of the road. So I'm just appealing to the ministry that they should come and assist Gawes, Gandorf, and Nsawam Adraji so that the accident that we have been having on the roads have to stop.
Spare parts. Metro News will continue to follow up and keep you updated.
We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Business News is next. In business today, the Internal Audit Committee of the Ghana Export-Import Bank has been inaugurated with a call on committee members to work together with the board and management of the bank and its stakeholders to ensure efficient management of public funds. Director General of the Internal Audit Agency, Dr. Eric Odru-Osai, who swore into office the 5-member committee, pointed out that general financial management systems are key to transparent and accountable governance. He stressed that the audit committee is very important in the governance of Exim Bank and requires the support of management and all key stakeholders to ensure the efficient execution of their mandate. Under the advisory role, the managing director said, as experts in their own rights, they are to put their expertise at the disposal of management. He tasked them to support management by being present at entrance and exit meetings of external auditors as they are better placed to respond to and resolve issues with them. Dr. Osai said risk management is critical, and as an important national institution, development in the country rests on them, urging members to help implement good risk management systems. The people of Nungua have received support for the celebration of this year's festival. The donation was done by the Trasako Group to the Gbogbo Wolome of Nungua as part of its corporate social responsibility.
The donation was made to the Gbogbo Wolome Shite of Nungua at his palace. The group presented a check of 80,000 Ghana cedis, including other items, to the area to help celebrate the Homo Festival. The items included 2 cows, 4 rams, 100 bags of rice, and 2 bags of maize. Speaking to the media after the presentation, the managing director of Trasako, Ian Morris, said the donation was to support the festival as part of its corporate social responsibility.
I had a long-standing relationship with them since 1998, 1997, and
it's a yearly thing that we always try and do with them and sort of foster friendship, foster community spirit between the parties. Over the years, it's grown and become deeper, and we ourselves have enjoyed a very nice relationship with many of the members of the stool over the years. Development trust is something we really want to get going between the company and Nungwa. That was started way back in about 2010, and we want to develop that and make it really work for the community as a whole.
Receiving the items on behalf of the Bobu Wulomoshite, Bobu Labia, Botier Pepefo expressed his excitement about the support given by the group. The Omo Festival is the festival of the Ga people and is often celebrated in the month of August every year.
Now, residents of Moframfadjin, a community in the Nsawam-Aduajuri district of the Eastern region, and Yahuman in the Ga West district of the Greater Accra region have benefited from a pipe-borne water project to address the lack of potable water. The project was commissioned by Voltic Ghana Limited, a private water utility service provider, which will help put an end to the struggles of the indigents in their search for water.
The facility, which has the capacity of 20,000 liters of water per day, will enable residents of Moframfadjine and Yahaman to access safe water to help improve the safety, sanitation, and health of residents. Speaking at the commissioning, the managing director of Coca-Cola Ghana Limited, a subsidiary of Vortic, Flora Jika, said the water project will give relief to the over 8,000 residents who walk miles in search of water and prevent diseases associated with contaminated water.
We responded to the plight of the people of this community. Nananom, I'm pleased to announce that with the commissioning of this borehole, all the 4,000 residents can now have access to safe and clean water. This will help improve the overall safety, health, and sanitation of everybody.
The South African High Commissioner, Grace Mason, who graced the commissioning, said such acts will strengthen the relationship between Ghana and South Africa.
This also signifies the relationship between Ghana and South Africa, that we continue to strengthen the relationship between Ghana and South Africa.
During a courtesy visit to the chief of Aduajiri, Okwanaju Nanadompre, he urged members of the community to take good care of the water to derive long-term benefits.
This project is for us, so we have to take sole responsibility of it. We will also come around to inspect often because water is scarce.
Residents of both communities expressed their delight about the project and thanked Voltic for coming to their aid.
We are grateful to Voltic for this kind gesture.
There's a lot of infection, guinea worms, bilharzias, and others. Now that Voltic and Coca-Cola has given us this water, hopefully these infections will be eradicated.
We are very grateful for whatever they have done for us today. We really appreciate it. God bless them.
Donations were made as part of the one-year anniversary of Hollandia Yogurt, a subsidiary of Voltic.
Sports news is next. Ghana Premier League champions Asante Kotoko won the most awards at the 2022 edition of the Ghana Football Awards. The event, which took place at the Grand Arena Conference Center, saw Alexander Jiku also win the Foreign-Based Footballer of the Year and Footballer of the Year awards. The Strasbourg defender beat competition from Thomas Partey, who plays for Arsenal, Daniel Amate, who plays for Leicester City, and Mohamed Salisu, who plays for Southampton, and goalkeeper Jojo Wallacott to clinch the top prize. AS Roma's Felix Afenejan was also named the winner of the Odate Lamte Future Star Award on the night. That's it for sports. Entertainment news is next. In the wake of complaints of intellectual property theft and copyright issues among creatives, a private legal practitioner, Sewa Safo Mensah, has advised creatives to register and own their works to avoid issues like that. She spoke on Entertainment Review.
My little advice I would give them would be that own your work and protect your work by monitoring it. If you find that someone has infringed upon your rights, seek redress. Seek the remedy available to you under the law within or the laws within the jurisdiction you find yourself. Another advice I would also give them is that the law says that once, in respect of copyright, once you publish it, it's automatic, you gain automatic rights to it. But I'll go further in advising musicians to also register it because it helps you, importance of registration. It helps you to keep records of your song. It authenticates the ownership of your song, such that it's an evidence. You pull it. So for instance, Santrophy, if they had registered or they have registered their song, they can just pull the registration documentation and show to the court, this is it.
International news is next. Three people reported dead in Russia's Belgorod as Zelensky advisor concedes that a key Ukrainian bastion in Luhansk could fall. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko says his country is being provoked, claims Ukraine fired several missiles at military targets inside Belarus. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says colossal investments are needed to rebuild his war-torn country. That's it for now, but before we go, a look at as Ghana prepares to begin negotiations with the International Monetary Fund on a possible bailout to bolster its finances, we looked at how the Ghanaian economy will fare. Graduate Students Association of the University for Development Studies revealed inadequate lecture halls is affecting academic work in the school. We also took you to Eastern Europe, where 3 people have been reported dead in Russia's Belgorod as Zelensky advisor concedes that a key Ukrainian bastion in Luhansk could fall. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with Newsnight. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Bye for now.